So, my name is Kumar. So I'm founder of Kasha and Oxesis Group. Both are the blockchain companies I started. So Oxesis was the first company which I started in 2014. And then later in 2016, I started Kasha, which was my self-realization that all what we are talking about blockchain, what good it is making for average consumer in the society. And that's what is Kasha about, that how we can take out this huge benefits which we are talking about in this room to some of the average consumer who does not care about technology. Because technology is not something which people want to buy. They want to buy products and services in a very simple way which can just change their life and don't give them a 30-page of manual to understand the technology. So that's what Kasha is about. Yeah.
Great.
Hello, hi everyone. My name is Ara Ezra. I'm from Malaysia, which is in Southeast Asia. As you can see that currently in Southeast Asia, a few company, fintech company and startup going to pop up on this year. So I'm presenting a blockchain.my. It is a multi-crypto wallet linking with NFC debit card and Visa debit card. So nice to have a meeting event here. So it is a nice and an awesome conference.
Hi, I'm the CTO and co-founder of BlockCypher. We started in about 2013. We are a platform company for blockchains and cryptocurrencies. We power about maybe a third to a half of the cryptocurrency startups, like companies that you've heard before. Brock mentioned Abra earlier, but there's Coinbase and multiple others. I'm French, but we are living in California, and we're all in California actually. And what we do is we're a platform company. We help all the companies power their own blockchain. We're like a little bit like Amazon Web Services for blockchains. And thank you for being here tonight.
Well, I'm Diego from Buenos Aires, Argentina, Latin America. I'm the president of the Argentinian and Argentina and Latin American Bitcoin NGOs, and also the CEO of Rootstock, RSK, we should not say Rootstock, RSK, the first smart contract platform secured by the Bitcoin network.
So we have on stage like the four corners of the planet, which is pretty cool to have on stage. And industry leaders and experts from the four different corners. Brock said we can't predict the future, so we won't. But maybe we can talk about what your guys' visions are. So the title is The Future of Blockchain. A couple years ago, nobody could have predicted, I don't think, what's happening right now in ICOs. But what's happening in the blockchain that's interesting and exciting for you guys, what do you think? What's interesting for you?
For me?
What are you most excited about?
Other than making money? Oh,
Yeah.
So what's excited about other than making money, you mean? Yeah. So what's excited about that, how we can take this technology, because all the speech we heard about that, how the blockchain is a great technology, how it's the second most important technology which came in the world. So if it's really that powerful, so what excites us that how we can take this and go in a public where everyone can use it. Because if it's the second form of internet, then obviously it holds such potentials which internet does not able to solve. So we heard about how internet does not able to solve the money problem, how money can be not moved into the internet. Now we are moving money over the internet. We have a digital gold called Bitcoin. I don't know I'm allowed to say this word or here or not, because some of the panel you are not allowed to say the word Bitcoin. It's like the Harry Potter movie, you are not allowed to say some words. Yeah, so that's most exciting, that if we are standing on the edge of a new revolution. It's a technical revolution, and we got a chance to write the next steps in the future. Yeah.
What are you most excited about, Ori?
Okay. From my point of view, because I'm staying in Southeast Asia, so it is nearby Singapore, Hong Kong, and the most country that currently embrace the technology of Bitcoin and blockchain, which is China. As you can see that currently the volume of the trading from Bitcoin is coming from China. But one thing is, the most important thing is adoption. People want simplicity. So that's why, as you can see, that people like something like mobiles. So people need to, as a normal user, they need to understand Bitcoin from somewhere. So we need to have something like can mass adoption to the normal users. So in terms of future, the most disruptive industry that I think so, it is a mobile industry, payment industry. Because what? Because blockchain can enable that low-cost transfer and instant transfer, like really instant. So mobile can enable that. So another thing is, as you can see that currently in the market now, people is in love into ICO. There's lots of company planning into ICO. And in Southeast Asia, there's lots of people who love to invest. In Southeast Asia, in Malaysia, in Indonesia, and Thailand, people love to invest. In fact, people didn't know that it is the real company, it is a scam company. Most people tend to invest higher return of the investment. Like now, Bitcoin, people think Bitcoin is the most give them return of their money. So we need to educate more people to understand what it is Bitcoin actually. Yeah.
So I'm the most interested in probably the most boring parts, which is the cryptography. I think if you look at the past 30, 40 years, most of our online life has been enabled just by one cryptographic discovery, which is public-private key cryptography. We can't have internet, we can't have a phone the way we trust it, we can't connect to our bank accounts, you can connect to any service you really want to use without a minimum level of security, and that's been enabled by cryptography. I think blockchain and Bitcoin in the first place, but then there's a lot of innovation in that area now is just pushing that field a lot further than it was ever before. There's like really new-fangled cryptography that's enabled in Zcash that was created just in 2014, 3 years ago. It's never heard before in the field of cryptography, ever. You can talk to any professor in cryptography and he will tell you, I'll be lucky if anything I do is deployed in the hands of people in the next 20 years. And now that's the world we live in, and it's mostly pushed by cryptography. That's where I think the ICO space is a little hot, but a lot of it is pushed by Zoo's new announcements. Again, cryptocurrencies like Zcash and a new protocol called Mimblewimble. That's also very interesting. So many of those innovations that I find exciting is mostly technology-driven, cryptography-driven, and that's what is pushing the envelope now.
Well, in my case, of course, the social impact I already stated, so that's one of the things that excites me the most. I think the transition will require of the traditional system. I think we need to create bridges between the future we want and what we have now. And the most important aspect was mentioned is we need to traction enough users into the system, because without critical mass, there's no way we can do any change. I mean, so I think that's why we also need the traditional industry to be engaged and be brought into it, although this will be the same technology that will disrupt them later on, because that's part of the innovator's dilemma, no? But that's one aspect, and the other aspect is the social experiment that Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrencies are. All the things we are seeing on the scaling debate, we need to create technologies in order to be able to take decisions in decentralized systems. So it's both like a social experiment and a technological experiment. How we make a system that has no head take decisions about its future. So it's a very interesting challenge, both technically and socially. So I'm excited about both things. I mean, what we are building in terms of technological tools to create a new way of organized societies or group of people.
So let's talk for a second about the adoption of all of this. I was in a karaoke bar in Nevada during a rodeo, and I was at a table with some guys that loved Bitcoin, and we went from table to table asking them if they knew Bitcoin. This was 2013, and one of the guys decided it would be a good idea to ask each table if they knew Bitcoin, and nobody obviously did. No, nobody at the rodeo knew. But this adoption thing and people knowing about things is a huge issue, and adoption generally in the industry is a huge issue. But I guess one thing that we haven't talked about today is the major corporations getting involved. It is clear people are, like IBM is launching supply chain stuff. Microsoft has Azure working on projects like this. How do you think that's going to impact adoption, and how do you, is Facebook going to launch a blockchain product? What are your thoughts?
So now what we are talking about, that corporations can come up with a product or maybe services which are based on a blockchain. That's just to simplify the question. Yeah, obviously it helps because it's but obvious when people says that, oh, we are making a new currency system. People still believes more if Google comes out and say, hey, we got a new coin. You know, obviously you understand. I don't see the ICO gonna stop at millions. It may be cross billions and billions. So obviously these corporations can leverage their trust and brand value which they build, because that's what consumer care about. And they didn't care, and these companies, we need to go back and see, they did not made their trust and brand values by creating technologies. They build it by creating products. If Google came out and say, hey, we are working on a fundamental, it's a powerful technology which will help you to never get lost and using some latitude, longitude, and hell different lot of technology. Would you like to use it? People have no idea what you are talking about. So Google came up with Google Maps and say, hey, this is which helps you to commute to your office. And people loved it. So that's what we are talking about, sugar candying it. If we really want to give consumer those technologies, we need to sugar candy it. Now, if the corporations did it, obviously it makes the job easier because they have the brand value. Or if we as a startup, we are doing it, we have to really create a value for the average consumer. And when I say the average consumer, it may include us, but but we need to understand the people in this room are some of the privileged people who got the chance to sit down, read the white paper, understand what is Bitcoin, what is blockchain, but that's not the reality of other 7 billion people on the planet. So if we want to give them something, we have to take an alternate path.
Sure.
I didn't understand the paper of Bitcoin yet, so it's okay. But I think I like to do this comparison because we had these kinds of discussions back in the 90s, in the early days of the web, where for a short while people were saying, no, the intranets are the future. So at the end is what is disruptive in this is the openness. And corporations can use blockchain technology, but they can create intranets, they can create extranets, but creating internet goes against their own interest. It's a different model, a different economical model. So you can, as I mentioned before, the innovator's dilemma, you cannot try to disrupt yourself. So it's very difficult for them. I think they will play a big part, they will contribute, but at the end, the value of an open neutral network for transfer of value, like the internet we know was for the transfer of knowledge and communications, is what will bring the disruption. The rest is optimizations of what we have.
Yeah, I think it's hard to predict. It's kind of the Borg 5 years from now kind of point. There's the part of intranet versus internet, right? You can phrase it in terms of, okay, they're sort of whitewashing the whole technology and making it good for the enterprise and big corporations, and Bitcoin is a bad word, and you need to just repurpose it powerfully. And that's one part of it. Might be what it ends up being, and it might be intranet versus intranet, and the intranet might not end up being anything interesting. There's the other angle, which is where the technology is actually widely applicable and maybe applied in all sorts of different areas and environments. And I think the actual truth is going to be in the middle. I think the technology is interesting and interesting enough that it will be more widespread than just the intranet right now. I think the most interesting application that we will see still remains around cryptocurrencies and open networks and the ability for people to just opt in and come in. So my personal take is more enterprises coming in will taint the technology, and they can taint it in a good way. So we just have to take everything that can contribute, bring our field forward in different areas and different directions, and see where it goes.
Hello. Okay. I think that as a mass adoption. Okay, before I'm presenting blockchain.my, I have a project that calls the DDKOIN-DINARDIRHAM, which is we digitize the gold. At first, people think skeptical. How you digitize the gold? Everything must be physical because gold is physical. But we managed to do that on Ethereum. And then we receive a lot of response from the Southeast Asia because people in Southeast Asia love gold. We have currently 40,000 members currently and growing. And one thing that they need to see that it is the real technology that can solve the problems, because people, when they are keeping their gold, it is hard to cash out. Maybe they have to charge some spread. But when you digitize the gold, you can do many things, like doing a payment like gold. You can go to any shop making a payment in gold. Okay, so the main important thing is it is a mass adoption. Okay, so like another company, startup from Philippines, we know that Philippine citizens have work outside of their country. It is hard for them to bring money back to their country. So there's one company called coins.ph and doing well on bringing money from outside, working outside of Philippines and using blockchain technology, which is Bitcoin. Yeah, coins.ph.
I just have to add here. Yeah, because Diego mentioned that the internet and openness. Yeah, and because we just raised this point, if we see this, the big powerhouses they try to resist the change, and it's obvious because nobody wants to change. Because if I'm already powerful, I don't want to take a risk of losing my power. But we saw what happened there. The big powerhouses or the blue chip companies at that time, the telecoms or whatever. Right now, if we see, they are the one who is making most of out of the internet. So they are sitting and literally running everything on the internet and making money for themselves. And that's what happens every time when a new technology comes. So we try to resist, but end of the day when the adoption happens, those companies just leverage their brand and make most out of it. You know, so if there is someone who is still a spectacle from those blue chip companies, can just try to re-strategize their strategy and say, okay, where we can start resisting the change and try to adopt it. Thanks.
One little thing, there's another angle, because you maybe I was talking about the ones providing blockchain platforms, but there are other corporations like big banks that might profit from using smart contracts or blockchain, and I think those will help bring in the users. Very likely they are not going to use Bitcoin as a currency. They are going to use or any cryptocurrency. They are going to use digital representations of the local currency. Also because the regular citizen doesn't want to be exposed to the volatility of the cryptocurrencies for buying coffee. They want to pay the coffee more or less the same, not 50% less like we do when we pay with Bitcoin.
So I think what an interesting takeaway here is talking about the tangible value of blockchain and coming to terms with that. And what has happened, I guess, over the last couple of years, and especially now, we're still in the conceptual phase of what is all of this. And maybe the most tangible thing people come up with is what to name their ICO. But the actual tangible value is something that still needs to be expressed. Maybe a closing thought on the future of blockchain as you see it before we move to Matt's speech.
Big responsibility. So the future. So without taking time, I just say the future, what I lies, maybe the perspective can change from person to person, what they think. But what I think that blockchain, because the whole world or this concept started with one word, that blockchain is trying to solve or bring something called trust. So what I see that everywhere where we are right now using trust, which is mostly right now lies in governance and banking, I see that blockchain can replace those factors where right now the trust is in the centralized entity, could be decentralized using blockchain. Thank you.
Okay, I think that in few years from now, blockchain can do many things, okay? And then in one day, people didn't even realize that the underlying technology is in blockchain. We will enter into that phase, and then blockchain can solve many things. As I come from South Asia, there's a lot of population there which don't have any bank, but they have the phone. So blockchain can bank and unbanked population in the world, and not only in South Asia. In fact, also in India, Indonesia especially. There's a lot of people that don't have any bank account but have mobile phone. So Bitcoin can tap into that market to offer something for them for low transfer, secure, and many things that Bitcoin can do. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I'll be maybe the party pooper, but so I think on the private consortium chain kind of spectrum, it's hard to tell. It's kind of early. We'll have to see what people do with it. It's still kind of proof of concept, prototype stage. So I don't know what's going to happen in the next few years. For the public chain, I think there's still a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built. So there's a lot of froth, a lot of money coming in, a lot of money coming out. And it's mostly for, in my opinion, very uninteresting projects. So we need to build a lot more infrastructure, a lot more use case, make it scale, make it work. For privacy, make it work so that you don't send money and everybody knows how much money you're making. So there's tons of stuff that still needs to be built, and I think we'll do that in the 5 and 10 years old, and then I think we'll be able to deliver all those promises, but it's going to take a little while.
I will add up a little bit on top of what everybody says. I think we are constructing the building blocks of this ecosystem: identity, digitalization of assets, exchanges, notarization of documents and agreements. I think all those are the building blocks, but the true disruptive use cases will come when those building blocks are in place and we have critical mass. So it's difficult to see, as it was difficult to see Facebook in the 90s, it's very difficult to see what will be the disruption in blockchain. But I know we need to build those building blocks, and also in the technological side as well. We need zero knowledge proof systems. We need all those things to build also systems that can be verifiable to the hardware level, so we know there's no hacking like what happened with Intel chip. So we need to build a lot of technologies for privacy, for security, but it's very exciting because once this is built, this will change society forever and very fundamentally.
Yeah, just if I can, I agree with you. It's going to change society forever, and if we deliver everything that's been told, and I think we can deliver it, it's really going to be amazing, but we need a little more time.
So, the final question, and respond only with a number. This time, next year.
The moon!
2018, the price of Ethereum What are we thinking?
Hold on. I'm a little biased. So it's with RSK already in production, so it's
Yeah, and it's very
difficult to tell.
to say anything for Ethereum, especially at this stage. It's unpredictable, given the volume and given the kind of adoption it have. It could be anything. Nobody believed. I'm very happy it went up, but I don't know if that's true for everyone. So that's why I never expected so it's my experience, when I bought, I never expected that it will go 100. Although when you hold something, you pray every day that it's gonna be 1,000. But I never expected that, and next day morning I wake up and it was like 89, and I say, wow. So if you ask me what's the price gonna be, I have no idea. It's nothing.
I give you a
cannot say
formula.
anything. Yeah.
It will be between 10 and 20% of the Bitcoin price, because basically that's what happened. Everybody follows the Bitcoin price.
Okay, I asked for a number and we
it's
got a
number.
speech.
No, I say infinite. So, okay, so number maybe.
Just a number.
Okay, so 300. Yeah.
Regarding Ethereum, okay, you know that our invention in DinarDirham is using Ethereum, and I believe that majority of ICO also using Ethereum as a way of crowdfunding. So it has a lots of potential for the Ethereum, and it can be, when you ask about the price, I don't know how to say, but I think it's going to be something like 500 USD in 2018. Yeah.
Perfect.
Wow.
I was just thinking in my mind, I should have said 500, you know, sometime because that's what's needed to, I think, make me millionaires. Perfect.
Okay, we're running out of
yeah.
time.
I believe that there is a lot of Ethereum supporter in this room. Yeah.
I think there is. Okay, please, a big round of applause for this wonderful panelist. Thank you so much.